Everyone, what? David Kim McKinnon is staying home? That's unacceptable. Jerry Fett. Alright. That's cool, that's cool. No, you're here, you're not missing nothing. Yeah, you're here. So we'll just wait a couple minutes before Mr. Ireland gets ready here. If you don't know Mr. Ireland, he's been in real estate for 30 plus years. And he looks about 30 years old right now. And and he's actually reverse aging, if I'm not mistaken. He has a six pack. His body fat percentage is under 5%. Yes, absolutely jacked. All right. So, Mr. Ireland, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Alright.
I never understood the term with further ado. By the way, where is the camera?
You see it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so we'll turn
Thank
it
you,
around.
Michael,
We'll
for
turn it
helping me
around.
get oriented.
Yeah, we'll turn it around.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll give you a mic. Sir.
Michael, I'm not sure if you can hear me well or not, but we do have the whiteboard on the side of the room for you if you want to start using it. It's all yours, my friend.
Okay, whiteboard on the side of the room. Oh, so I can just walk over there and use notes, and then you're gonna pivot that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
it's like
Very
a,
good.
like a bit.
Do you want to
So-
move this a bit? Yes.
just on the way in here, while getting out of a state of disorientation, I was looking for suite 1200, which it turns out is on the 11th floor. So I wasn't dyslexic. And I popped my head in the door of the office across the room. Does anybody know what they do there?
It's a sheer office.
Yeah, and those people that are sitting at their monitors right now are helping disabled people to kind of find their way and navigate their way through life, helping them with all the logistics. And the nice man there actually directed me to the washroom so I could powder my nose. But I did get to know him for a brief moment, and then it occurred to me that sometimes we forget what we are in the people business. So the question then becomes, who have you talked today? Whom have you talked to today that represents where you will be in the future of real estate? Because your life, your existence, and your ability to thrive in real estate completely depends on the people that you have not yet talked to today. So like Mike Ferry says, do not be a secret agent. And I realize it's very easy to leverage social media and get our complexion out there so that people will reach out to us and ask us to provide services, but we know that's not really how it works, is it? Our goal every day is to be prospecting. And however you want to prospect should all distill down to how many conversations have you had thus far today that will dictate where your business will stand in the next 90 days. So I mentioned 90 days for a reason. And really, of all the things that we could discuss here, I wanted to stick with something that was very fundamental. Okay. Can everybody hear me and see me okay? Not so important to see me, but definitely to hear me. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Perfectly well.
It's good to know that you have my back, Axel. Thank you. All right. So there are seasons in life. Would everybody agree there's seasons in life?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so regarding the climate, what 4 seasons do we have that we have every year? In that order, sure. I'm going to start with the spring, so I'm going to start with the winter. Yeah, and there's no question to where we are right now. We are in springtime. Agreed? Right, and never underestimate the effects of spring weather on the housing market, guys. There's hope to that and an interest rate reduction. And it's too late to choose a different government. So we're kind of stuck with that paradigm. All right, so springtime, we know, is a time where people make a lot of decisions to move. Okay, somewhere between the 1st of March and the end of June. What percentage, would anybody guess, what percentage of homes sell or are purchased? Well, assuming you're in the local market, it's about 65%. Does that sound right? Maybe it's 61, maybe it's 71, but that's kind of how it works. So we know that there's that cycle, which is kind of the overall cycle we see every year, whether the market is good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, then we have some personal seasons and cycles, which everybody's, should be knowing where they're at. And that's actually what I wanted to address here today. So assuming that you want to capitalize on the opportunity that you have right now in real estate, it is central to all of your plans that you know what season you are in. Okay, we know the cycle of the market is prime time right now. It's playoff season, okay? So we would say that 1 week in April could be equal to 2 weeks in September, could be equal to 1 month in November. Does anybody question why that would not be true? So we all want to leverage, don't we? So leverage just seems to be, we want to apply a force multiplier to whatever opportunity we have. So where I want to begin today, if you're taking notes, and you don't have to take a lot of them, but here's my request. I have a request. And I showed up with this very, very strong intention to have everybody take note of the 5 cycles that the 5 elements you're going to move through in the next 90 days. If your profile is, you actually don't really have a solid plan that you're working on right now, because remember, this was just how to thrive in the next 90 days. I think that was the topic. If it was something else, let me know, Axel.
You got it.
Okay.
That's the one, sir. That's the one.
Okay. So under that title, I'm going to let you know what they are up front, and then we're going to go through each one. And I want at the end, here's my request. Everybody should be able to identify where they are in this cycle. Because the ability to navigate from a place to where you want to go, you would agree, is very critical. Okay? If you don't know where, and I know this sounds cliche, if you don't know where you're at, okay, it really doesn't matter what your objectives are, because you won't know what to be doing given where you're at, because everybody, wherever they are and whatever they're doing in their mind, their mindset, there's a word we throw around a lot, but we don't know what it means. It's just what's going on in your mind, in the way that you're interpreting a circumstance you're in, a person that you're with, or something you're experiencing. Does that make sense? Okay, so we have first word to write down. And if all you do is write down these 5 words today, you have completed most of your homework, half your homework. The other half will be to identify where you are. Formulation. And I'll go through these in detail in a minute. That's what we have a whiteboard for. Everybody got formulation. The next, number 2 of this phase, this 90-day phase, and you're going to see from the beginning to end why this must be so. We have concentration. And the third, we have momentum. That should be an aspiration we all have. We want to be in stride. We want momentum. It's where deal flow happens. And what happens after deal flow? Well, we know the sun starts to shine. The checks start rolling in. The bank account goes from negative to positive.
We just lost the audio. We can't hear you guys. Michael, can you look into it, please? Testing, testing. No, we can't hear you guys. We lost the audio right there. Michael, you want to connect the mics maybe? Or disconnect the mics? Maybe they just ran out of the battery. No, we can't hear. Nothing. Let's take it into the laptop. I think they're out of battery.
This battery.
Yes, we're back on. We're back on. We're back on.
We good?
We can hear now.
Speak,
Hello,
Michael.
hello.
Test, test.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. When do you plan on moving? How long have you lived at this address? Where'd you move from? If you were to move, where would you go next? And when would that be? Sorry, I just defaulted to a script there, but everybody should know that one, okay? So we're at momentum. Everybody heard the word momentum? Okay? We all know what it means, don't we? Now, what happens after momentum, we're not even halfway through this 90-day cycle. We have breakdown. Oh no, hold it. We were doing so well. We talked about formulation. We talked about concentration. We talked about momentum. Well, shouldn't things just continue to escalate in the right direction? No. Because remember, every major breakthrough in your life, and specifically in your business, is going to be how well you manage breakdowns. We'll talk in a moment what breakdown is, how it shows up, and how to manage it. Because contingent on how you manage breakdown determines the next word, the final word of the 5, and that's called breakthrough. And then you're going to see how this applies to almost every dimension of your life. Michael, I'm going to go over to that whiteboard, and I'm going to learn to print or write all over again. So I'm assuming there's a marker there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's right on the right.
May I get into your personal space? Oh, really? Okay, good. Ooh, blue, official, royal, authoritative color. Okay. I want to make sure that I'm not impairing any vision here of the board. So we would go there. Yes, from right to left. Okay, number 1. What was number 1?
Formulation.
Formulation. Can anybody give me another word for what formulation is?
Setting goals.
Yes. You know, a student that gives an answer that quick and that accurate should be at the front of the class. Yeah. Where's an apple for the teacher, John? That's good. Of course. So with goals. Yeah, let's make the vernacular simple. I don't want anybody forgetting. So have your own version of this, but we know what formulation is. So you have a goal. Could somebody give me a stated goal, a reasonable one, not designed to impress anybody of our audience? How many people do we have with us today?
21 on Zoom.
21 on Zoom? Well, I acknowledge you for all showing up. Students of life. Okay. Goals. Somebody give me a simple stated 1-sentence goal for what they want to accomplish in the next 90 days. Ideally in business.
Freedom.
Freedom defined by what outcome? Money, freedom of time, freedom of 15 pounds that shouldn't be hanging around. What kind of
How about
freedom?
all of the above?
Okay, well, there's a plan for you. That's another seminar. Okay, so something that would be an articulate goal that would be reasonable for you in measurable terms. Call it a dollar volume, call it a transaction amount, call it a, so define that, 1 sentence.
Oh, I can't.
So Leo said 5 transactions in 90 days.
Oh, wonderful. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to put the hypothesis here. 5 transactions. Okay. No, I'm not going to write that word down. I'm going to write it down fully so we have no miscommunication. 5 transactions in 90 days. Because after all, this is the 90-day cycle we're talking about. Okay, so we have this goal. And number 2, what is the next phase of this program? What was number 2? We have concentration. Okay. Can you give me another word for concentration? Okay, focus. Okay, so that would be focus. Can I say focused activities? Because remember, action is the name of the game. Okay. Concentration. Can we use the word action? So we could say You have a strategy. And now, as part of that strategy, you will have a system set up. Let's just say the system is, we want 5 transactions, which means that we have to somehow find ourselves on 5 listing appointments. Yeah, but what if 2 or 3 of those are buyer sales? That's okay. It's going to happen. If you take 5 listings, you will, as it all flows out, you will end up with 5 transactions. You know, it's kind of the immutable law of real estate that the year-end goal is dictated by how many listings you take. You take 25 listings, you'll end up with 25 deals. Yes, 15 of the listings will sell, and then 5 might expire or carry through the next year, but there'll be 5 buyer deals that come out the other end because those people who sold need to buy. So we know that. So we can just say that I know I need to be on 5 listing appointments, or, well, that would be if you're John. But if you probably in the actuarial table have to go in 10 listing appointments to get 5. That sound about right? Okay, so that means you're concentrating to take the actions necessary, which means you probably have to, John, how many people would you need to talk to if you talk to 100 people that produce a listing appointment? That means you have to talk to 1,000 people to get 5 listings, correct?
1,000 for 5? No, 100 for 1, then it would be.
Because you're 10 listing appointments equaling 5 listings. So would the number
So
be
the
1,000?
industry average is 60 contacts per appointment. So that would bring us into about 300 contacts for those 5 appointments, not the
Okay,
list.
great. I'll take that. So now we have a goal to make how many contacts a day?
Leo, did you want to speak up? Maybe you want to go on the mic and say how many contacts are you making right now and what's your goal for 90 days?
20 contacts per day, 5 days a week.
How many a day?
20 per day.
20
20,
per day?
100 contacts per week.
Okay, 20 contacts a day. Okay, so that is your action. You're concentrating on this. Right now, you are giving no thought to how is it all going to work out, because here's what's going to flow from that. As a result, you're going to be in communications, you're going to have appointments, and then you're going to be engaging people in your service plan. So you now have a strategy, okay? So the next is we have momentum. What is momentum? What's another word for momentum?
Consistency.
Okay, it's consistency. It feels like you got a bit of like a tailwind. Okay, it took a lot of energy to get that car rolling, but now it's kind of effortless because you've got, all the laws of thermodynamics at play. So we know this is what happens when you have momentum. You know you have momentum when you now have deal flow. You have further appointments that are on your calendar. I mentioned calendar for a reason, right? Like, don't tell me what your goals are. Just show me your calendar and I'll be able to interpret your goals. Okay. Remember, goals and schedule are married, right? One cannot work without the other. So we have momentum, which is this. Can I use the word flow? That's just such a new age word. Flow. Why does flow not continue for most of us? Because watch, we got flow because we had a plan, a formulation. We began to give effort into it, take action on it, the result of which we have engagement deals. And we may, as a result of what happens when you have deals? We know what produced the deals, but what happens as a result of these? Like they say, don't ask in life how many children you want if you're contemplating that with your wife or husband or a partner. Ask yourself, how many teenagers do I want? Because that's what you're going to end up with. So what you end up with when you have deals is you're going to have this whole mass of logistics that gets thrown onto your plate. Everybody knows what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay, what sort of things now come into your schedule that were not in your schedule when you were back here and when you were in here prospecting and setting appointments and going on them?
Stressing out about the deals and the listings that you need to do paperwork on.
Yes.
You're going to inspections, you're going on appointments.
Yeah.
The deal's falling apart.
Yeah. And so when we say some of that is drama, some of it is just simply more workload, more cognitive overload. And can we have a be honest session, since we're all in therapy here, guys, right? We're all just a wreck trying to improvise our way through this life and this business. Okay. So how does that go? Deep inside the armor, the warrior is just a little child. So as we try to move through all this, we just realize that, hey, I've got so many infirmities, weaknesses in my life, in my business plan, in the way that I manage things, in my lack of systems, because systems will trump strategy every day. You need to have systems. So what we discover, especially as a new agent or one that wants to elevate their production from its current great production to spectacular, like a line group level production, is we realize that we all have to start somewhere to either begin in the genesis stage if you're new to the business, or if you go, hey, I'm going to play the big game. It has to start out with a formulation of goals, concentrate on those activities, which results in momentum. And we already know that after all that momentum happens, we end up with, this is, sorry, 2-letter word, not one we like, but we've all been here. Breakdown. Another word for breakdown would be giving up. Could be falling off the wagon. Could be realizing I put off the search to get an assistant. I need help. I need my mother. I need my wife. I need somebody to help. And we've all, we know the frustration of that. We realize, okay, because while you're trying to manage your deal flow, and I'm just going to write this word and tell me if this word, if anybody can relate to that word, chaos. Chaos. Chaos is things that are beyond your control, okay, that overload you, your schedule, they overload your cognitive power. Okay. What is the antidote for chaos? It's the yin and the yang of life, guys. The balance, and I don't like to use that word too often, is you need order. Order is simply your systems and how you set up things to work without you being a part of them. So whether that's delegation, so you either at this point, a breakdown, you've got some decisions you've got to make. There's 3 things you do when you're in breakdown. You've got to ask yourself, okay, what can I automate? What can I delegate? And what can I, hard for some of you that say yes to everything, what can I eliminate? A lot of 8 words there. What would that look like for an agent who's now in chaos, has a lot of deal flow, a lot of deals on life support, setting up for new appointments? Because what's happening is what? When they're in this breakdown, this here is the first thing that gets compromised. Oh, you get to choose any course of action you like in life, but you do not get to choose the consequences. What are the consequences? Can anybody tell me when I have this goal that requires this to happen, no matter what circumstance, come hell or high water, as my mother would say? What happens when this goes to a consistent this per day? Because remember, there's only so much time to get everything done. And you're always going to default to the urgent versus the important. I know I do. The realtors, that's what you do, right? The upset client phones, you're in the middle of prospecting, you're probably going to pick up that phone, aren't you? Because you're emotionally attached. So what happens now to my goal when my contacts go down to 10 from 20? It's not going to happen on its own, is it? Do you see why realtors don't actually have cash flow? Consistent, reliable, duplicatable checks coming in the door. They have cash spurts that happen because they don't know how to manage themselves throughout this. The most important part of this whole process, in my experience, because unfortunately I've had to muddle my way through this over and over and again in whatever 30 years. Okay. It never changes, just like winter, spring, summer, and fall. We should always start with winter. Get that out of the way quick, because then spring. Exactly. You know, it's like eat that frog, just get it out of the way. And now I can do anything that day, right? Okay. So we all understand what happens. Who here has not had that happen to them with a goal or objective because they didn't know how to manage the breakdown? The breakdown is when chaos overwhelms you. Chaos is good. Why is chaos good? Okay, what is the catalyst to change? Is comfort the catalyst to change? No. You know, Gary Brecka says everybody should follow Gary Brecka if they want to be young and healthy forever. He says the leading cause of all mortality is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. Think about that. So now we manage breakdown by automating things, getting help, if you will, having a system. Remember, systems trump strategies. Show me your systems, I'll show you your outcomes. You delegate things and you learn to eliminate. What would eliminate look like when you're overwhelmed? Sometimes it requires tough conversations with yourself and with others. What does eliminate mean? Ooh, get rid of. Get rid of what? What would be an example you would get rid of when you review that you are tapped out? You don't have enough time, don't have resources.
Negative people. I feel like people could be part of your breakdown.
Yeah. You know, when you go into battle, you take what you need, you take the important stuff, and you leave everything else behind, right? So you got to travel light, but you got to spend the major time on the major things, because if you know what's going to happen, you're going to spend the major time on the what? The minor things. It's what we do. Now you have gone through this process where you've had the profound assessment of reality that you have put yourself in. You've been able to make strategic decisions. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to spend more time doing this. I'm going to change the system. Well, now as a result, from breakdown, we have a little bump. What is that bump called? It's the breakthrough. Can somebody give me an example of what a breakthrough would look like after 90 days? Okay. Would it look something like this outcome? Or maybe we surprise ourselves and we end up with this outcome. And then we look back in fascination and go, how was I at one deal after 30 days? I was at 4 deals after 60 days. And now I'm at 8 deals. It can happen, can't it? But as a result of one thing, we understood where we were in the process. So right now, if you think that if in actuality you are here, but you think that you're here, well then it's like the guy that's walking east looking for a sunset. Would you agree? Okay, can anybody see why? Does anybody need clarity on understanding where they are in the pursuit of whatever outcome they declared is going to happen? When would this not apply? Can somebody share, as intimately if you like, outside of the purveyance of real estate, would this apply to anything else you've experienced in your life or are going through right now? It's okay to have a quick 60-second share. It's okay, you're among friends.
Like personal stuff?
Absolutely.
I guess we're realtors, but if you wanna buy your own house, I guess you're gonna have to do this. This formula,
Okay,
anybody
Well,
else?
Playing like sports.
Yeah, like my daughter.
Sports?
Yeah. okay, and-
My daughter plays golf,
yes,
and I can see she goes through the whole thing. Right, to spend hours, just practice in a drive range, putting. And then so many, difficult times, and eventually, when her goal starts from 80, improve to 70. You can see the breakthrough, but how many balls she has hit? And it just do the same thing again and again every day. Yeah, that's what I see and motivate me because I didn't have that system, but she was forced into that system because otherwise she will quit. Because it's a really tough game for her to play, for 17 years.
where here would somebody consider throwing in the towel?
Well, I think she had an amazing coach. The coach had a system to help her to move on.
To focus on
To focus
what
on.
is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and she improved her skill. Plus, she has more experience, and then she achieved her goal. So eventually, she become pro.
What does a coach say to her when she's here?
You just need to do the things in and out every day for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours after school. Just go to the drive range,
Yeah.
hit the ball. Look,
Yeah.
it looks really boring, just hitting that ball and doing the putting and chipping. But one day, suddenly, she started to improve on her game.
Sounds pretty fun to me.
But she never loved it until the breakthrough.
Yeah.
When she go to the tournaments, suddenly her ranking started to improve. And then she said, wow, I love the game now. So she, to us, it looks really boring.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Would this be the determining factor that separates the top 20 from the bottom 80? What happens there?
Yeah, we saw lots of kids who dropped out again, but after school, the coach gave her, 2 buckets, hit the ball. And then after the practice, they go over it, use computer or whatever the tools, analyze it, what you need to improve.
Okay, we lost the audio again. Michael, you want to take it off and put the computer back on?
An example, what happens, that coaching through this situation determines really the outcome. Because too many people, they shipwreck, they get discouraged, because remember, can everybody hear me?
Should be.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can hear. Yes, we can hear.
Maybe I should bring my voice down or talk slower.
That's okay.
Okay. So clearly what happens here is this is where coaching matters. And also this is where we have to be very, very aware of where we're at. So remember, there was 2 parts to the response to this message, right? And the time to take action. I want to make this relevant, something that you could implement. So is anybody unclear as to where they are right now in their business cycle? Can you plot where you are on this journey? Because you'll agree there's going to be very different things going on in your mind in each of these dimensions. Would you agree? John, at what point does a tricep blowing up happen here?
That's the breakdown.
Okay, what had to happen to manage that? I know you didn't have to automate, delegate, or eliminate. But what had to happen in changing your tact to get to here?
Well, I actually had to go back to formulation again.
Ah, interesting. He went back to formulation.
You have to. You get to momentum, I was feeling good, feeling
Yeah.
great, and then you have a breakdown. in business, it would be totally slacking off on your prospecting. With regards to my workout regime, it was completely tearing my tricep. And I had to set a new goal again, which is getting back to where I was.
Oh, brilliant.
So with regards to your goals, you're gonna get to momentum, and then all of a sudden you're doing deals, you're doing a couple deals. All of a sudden you see a breakdown because you stop prospecting, and then it becomes slow again. And you're like, oh, then you have to go back to formulation and concentration to get back into momentum.
I love the way you wrapped it around there. There is a time where we actually have to go back to basics. Okay, but that's exactly what you're talking about. So you had to make a decision right there. And you know, this is sometimes a result of, what's that great prayer? The Serenity Prayer. Hey, you don't have to have been to AA to know the prayer. Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. What's the rest of that? The courage to change the things I can. And the third, the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah, that's from St. Francis at the CC, by the way.
You go to church, Brian? Oh, you do? Okay.
Church or AA, you're gonna hear it.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you serious?
I love it, brother.
It's
Yeah.
tattooed on Ryan's chest.
I love it.
guys.
Boy, that is one powerful
We're
prayer.
coming to the client party shirt off.
Yeah, I'll do the same, but I'm not putting my hand up. So. But beautiful, right here, you've got to kind of whisper that serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change. I pour my tricep, you know, nothing short of a miracle will heal this. You know, well, BPC 157 is a miracle drug, but that's another seminar, right? Okay, and so. The courage to change the things I can, hey, I can go back to basics, right? I can come up with a rehabilitation program that focuses on my tricep, right? And the wisdom to know the difference, what you can control and what you cannot control. Because really, ultimately in life, in that little instrument you get from the good Lord, you just got a couple little strings on there that you can pluck away at to make your music. And that is the things you can control, your attitude, your daily regimes. There's really, you can't control people around you, can you? You can't control, we know you can't control the market. Okay, so it's a wise person that knows what's within their control. And so we cover this. Everybody knows, and there's no confusion to know where you are in this journey. Does anybody need clarification or kind of any questions that pertain to all that?
Questions, challenges?
Anything related?
Well, for the formulation, when you set the goal, earlier someone mentioned about this money freedom, right? But I mean, what happens if, say, you set that goal and then you do this every day and then it didn't happen for a long period of time? How do you cope with that? If, say, you know, the money is the motivation and the goal is so hard and you are facing so much difficulty.
Yes. You then actually get a consolation prize. Does everybody know what a consolation prize is? Well, you didn't get first prize, but because you showed up, like everybody gets a trophy, you get a little trophy, say, hey, you participated. And you take that home to mommy and go, hey, mommy, I won a trophy. Oh, were you first place? No. Oh, were you like silver? Were you bronze? No, but they gave me this because, well, everybody got one that didn't win the gold or the silver or the bronze or the platinum or whatever. It's consolation. You showed up. But here's the gift you get, the consolation you get.
Well,
And it's
yeah.
actually the thing that determines the outcome.
Mhm.
You get the gift of frustration. Why would frustration be a gift? What happens when you are enormously frustrated?
Well, you are motivated, you want to catch.
You're motivated? Do you become more self-aware? Is there more humility that comes into the picture where you begin to look at, okay, so where did it break down? Okay, where did I not take responsibility? Where was I not impeccable with my schedule, with my commitments to myself? So you see frustration, we never grow in the good times, guys.
That's why I need a good coach, because it's a breaking point where, you know, for example, we used to be at a different company.
Yes,
We always, every month, so we have a ranking, right? Who is the top? Who is the top 20? And then when you see yourself always at the bottom, you know that you have a problem, but you don't know how to fix it. Nobody really supports you. And when you go to see other people holding the big trophies, you know, and you feel really intimidated and you feel negative. Right? So that's the hard thing.
can you explain something to me? How is it, almost without fail, that the person who is there holding the really big trophy with all their hubris, and I did it my way, and look what I did. How is it that that person, in a short matter of time, has lost first position? Maybe they've cascaded down to second, third, or also ran. Why does that happen? Because this works both ways. Why does that happen? Anybody?
It's not working.
Oh, absolutely. They actually thought that it was them,
The
Right.
glory.
the glory. Yeah, they get lazy and complacent. How does that go? Hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make hard times. Isn't that what happens?
But you know, when you think about it, it makes sense. But in reality, the human nature is a work opposite. The human nature is that I want glory for myself. Okay, I made all the effort and I'm the winner, but they are proud of themselves. Yeah, but as you mentioned, then the rank will start to go down. Whereas the person who never gave up, who, you know, was beaten but never gave up, they will start to rise.
Yeah, because the real gift in the end, it's not the paychecks. It's the person you become in the process. Would you agree? I mean, you're mature enough to accomplish enough things in life. You've got a beautiful daughter. You probably have a lot of other things that you're very, very proud of, grateful for, right? It's the person you become that makes you a beautiful work of art. So when you feel as though you're, you know, either manifesting your destiny or that you're living a purpose-driven life, like that's the outcome. Like the wealthiest man in the world is the guy that opens the door and his little baby comes running to him and grabs him. Wealthiest man, right?
Yeah.
So if we see this as a, don't want to get off track here, it's a great conversation. If you see this as a spiritual journey, who you are evolving to be, that ultimately produces the outcomes, you know, the be, do, and the have. Yeah. But what we all agree on is this, is that your ability to know where you're at and to navigate next steps. Because remember, otherwise you're on autopilot. And we know that critical is this point right here, how it gets managed. Okay, so does anybody else grasping for a strategy or a tool or an interpretation of what we talked about? Is this not relevant for you right now?
Super relevant. I think most agents, you know, last year in the US, they 240,000 agents quit. And 71% of all the agents in the US did not make a sale. So I would say most of the agents stay in breakdown and they never go back to formulation. They never go back to concentration. Therefore, there's no momentum and there's never a breakthrough. So realizing that if most of us are in breakdown, we need to go back to number one. And then stay in number two for a long period of time until you get to momentum. And that's really hard for most agents to get to because they quit on the concentration.
How many years of 50 contacts a day, John?
5 years straight, 50 contacts a day, Monday to Friday, no fail.
So does everybody now know what concentration looks like?
But most people quit. It's the key to recognize that number two is the longest out of all the cycle right there. Momentum doesn't last that long. Breakdown doesn't last that long if you let it. And then breakthrough is a moment. Then you gotta go back to formulation.
Does it ever end?
This is a cycle. It never ends until you die, guys.
Now, we all know that, but you know what the public sees when you have now gone through this over and over again? They see
Breakthrough.
this. I know I said 5, but there's actually a 6 phase to it. Very few people share this rare air, but here's what it's called. Mastery. When you look at somebody, it looks like they do virtually nothing. And it all just falls at their feet. The ripe produce, they have more than their fair share. They've got it all. They're living the dream. And we look at they go, yeah. How? Well, because behind the curtain, remember, every public victory in your life is a result of a series of private victories. What does that mean? What is a private victory? Well, a private victory could be this, grinding away. A private victory could be managing this. And who you become as a result, digging deep into your constitution and taking that frustration and turning it into jet fuel. You know, Mortimer Adler said, nothing can resist the human will, or it will stake its very existence on the extent of its purpose. You know, people will die for a cause. We're not asking that of you today. But if you want to get to mastery, which is the epitome of, it's when you have that constant momentum and your dry cleaner is calling you and saying, look, I mean, you need to come pick up your dry cleaning. Yeah. No, you really do. It's been here for a month and there's 2 commission checks that we got. Oh, yeah, I'll get around to it. Okay, if that's a problem you want to have, then we know that this is an indispensable journey. All right, are we complete? Any other questions?
Let's open it up for questions, concerns, challenges, guys. We have 30 years of experience in one man, please. Life, real estate, hair transplants, biohacking.
What was
Yeah.
your daily,
Pardon me?
what was your daily goal?
Oh, thank you for using the past tense word it was.
Or what is?
Yeah, you're accusing me of being complacent, are you?
You're doing nothing now.
Yeah.
I'm still working on my words.
Yeah, so what daily goal will simply be, we talked about this before and, the book recommendation, the 4 agreements. What are the 4 agreements? Okay, so be impeccable with your word, never take anything personally, always do your best and never make assumptions. So if you just made that a daily goal, how would that translate to how you show up? Okay, well, if you did your best today, your best was, I met my 20 contacts. That's a win. Because you stack up those little compound, the compound effect. Eventually, you're gonna, what's another, now, if you were impeccable with your word, I will be there at 11:30, which for me, I wasn't impeccable with my word. I got in the building 15 minutes early and then it turned out suite 1200 is on the 11th floor. Imagine my confusion going up and down and all around. But impeccable with your words. You did what you said you were gonna do, what you declared to yourself, which is so important. And then what you declare to others. That's called integrity. John, how important is integrity of word?
It's everything.
It's
Because
everything.
That's who you are. And they did a study on all the billionaires. I think there are 400 billionaires in the world. Number 1 commonality was integrity. Out of all the billionaires.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I
Everything
know
else
what
is
I can
different.
count on from you. I know what I can
Integrity.
count on. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And now, then never make assumptions. My life is full of them. Right? I assume that I work 6 hours a day. Now, if you did an autopsy on my schedule or you reviewed the black box, you find it very difficult. But that's what being in integrity looks like. And not assuming that certain things are so that are not, because most of us are walking in delusion. And you're not 40 yet, but by the time most people are 40, 80% of them are completely operating unconsciously. Right? They have a little program that runs the show. And, you know, they say that until you make this is worth writing down, guys. Until you make the unconscious the conscious, it will continue to direct your life. And in the end, you will call that fate.
That's deep.
Yeah, so, and then we always do our best. So always do your best, never make assumptions, be impeccable with your word, and never take anything personally. What are you calling me at 7:30 in the morning for? You got a realtor, lah! Don't take it personally. Okay. It's just somebody having a bad day. So, I hope that addresses the question.
So being impeccable, never taking anything personally, never making assumptions, and what else?
Always do your best.
Always do your best. That's John.
Thank you so much.
John McGrail Ruiz, 4 agreements. Apparently there's a 5th agreement now. So subscribe.
Follow for more.
What's that?
Follow for more.
Yes. All right. We have our studio audience and then we have everybody else out there in the ether.
Frank has a question. Yeah, I have one more question. For someone who is afraid to talk to people and in this business, what's the advice you give to this person?
Can I ask you a personal question? Do you like to dance?
I like to dance, but I'm not a good dancer.
Yeah, you're an honest man. Most of us think we're great dancers. So, because most people, men particularly, not women, because you know, music and dance and the way you do music and stuff. But most guys, they get out there and it's awkward. So when we're afraid of talking to people, that's tantamount to being afraid of dancing. Or afraid of going out there and grabbing the karaoke and belting out a tune. Right? So what would be the remedy for somebody who's afraid to dance?
Well, you know,
As a remedy, it's a very simple one.
yeah.
It's besides showing up, what else could somebody do to give themselves confidence, which displaces fear? What could they do?
I have to find something,
I got 2 words, Arthur Murray.
One word.
Arthur Murray.
It's one word, Frank.
Everybody knows who knows Arthur Murray? They're everywhere. There's not a city that doesn't have an Arthur Murray in North America. They're a dance class. Anybody who doesn't know how to dance should right now go on, find the nearest Arthur Murray and learn the tango. Learn the waltz. Learn a 2-step. So you learn a skill. Now you know where to shuffle your feet, where to hold your partner.
learn.
And so now you have confidence. So then I think it was a movie about this. So you're going through this and your wife doesn't even know. Why are you always back at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night? Well, I was meeting with a client, but what she doesn't know is you were taking 20 sessions at Arthur Murray of the tango. And then one day you go, hey, honey, let's go to wherever people dance. This one is the dance place over here in Marine Drive, right? By the Otter. Okay, let's go dance. And she drag her out there and then you take her and you do the tango with her. Oh my goodness, I didn't know you could do that, right? So this is where skills. Yeah, knowledge equals confidence, ignorance equals fear. So when we're afraid of something, we just take on the skill, usually shared by somebody else who knows how to do it well, right? I mean, isn't that a simple formula? Yeah. And if that doesn't work, just, make all your drinks a double.
Thank you.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ireland.
All right, guys.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, what's your background? Like, can you give us?
My background?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. The
Adios.
recording will be